What's up? Hey, everybody. Unfortunately, I don't have too much time for fun banter at the beginning. I gotta really get through these notes just so we don't run out of time here on our video. So, we're talking about social change in the 1920s. So, the Roaring Twenties marked a period, marked a decade of great prosperity, and a surge of new inventions and innovations made life more comfortable than ever before. Beneath an appearance of calm prosperity, though, America was experiencing a fundamental change in its social values. Oh, here we go. Come on. Oh, too far. All right. Oh, way too far. All right. Many Americans began to adopt a set of values that threatened traditional ones. Young people yearning for greater freedoms and changes. The struggle between these values and the traditional beliefs was reflected in almost every aspect of American life. Shifting values and ideas impacted consumer behavior. New trends in society included city living, loose family organization, and the rejection of religious standards. Working hours for many people increased while wages increased, leading to an increase in leisure activities. During this era as well, there was a period known as the Harlem Renaissance, which was a celebration of African American culture, which contributed to social change. The 1920s is often referred to as the Jazz Age, reflecting the great importance of this new form of African American music. During this period, New York City became the cultural center of this movement that reinforced racial pride among African Americans. With writers and artists, music, photographers, many of them sought to flee the old tenement farming lifestyle of the South. And a rising middle class contributed to this as well. And it was more than just music. It was an era where African Americans felt as though they had liberated themselves from a past marked by self-doubt and uncertainty. Poets such as Langston Hughes contributed greatly to the cultural changes of this period. Also, an important period leading up to the 20s and affecting the 20s was the fight for women's suffrage. At the early 19th century, women lacked the right to vote, to serve on juries, or to hold public office. They were excluded from public life and were in charge of the home and the children. In most states, once a woman was married, she even lost control of her property and wages to her husbands, which is absurd when you consider that even 1,000 years ago, the Vikings at least distributed everything 50-50 in a divorce. I mean, it's absurd to think about it like this. By the mid-19th century, some women began to organize. In 1848, they held a convention at Seneca Falls that said women deserve the right to vote and are equal to men. And they were disappointed after the Civil War when African Americans were found new freedoms, but women did not. These amendments caused a rift in the women's movement between those who opposed it because it failed to grant women the right to vote, and others who thought that maybe a different path existed. So during World War I, as men went off to fight in Europe for democracy, millions of women took their places in the mills and the mines. It seemed odd to many to fight for democracy in other countries, but oppose it at home. And during World War I, it became hard for opponents of women's suffrage to deny that women were equal to men. There we go. Whoa. Shortly after America's entry into the war, however, a proposed amendment was... what's happening? Introduced to Congress. The amendment established that no state could deny a citizen the right to vote on account of their sex. It was ratified as the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution in 1920. Nice video if you want to take time to find it and watch it. The 19th Amendment was a forward step in making the United States a true democracy, a system of government by the people. It did not lead many to the dramatic changes that many of its opponents had predicted. The fear that men would be swept from office and replaced with women did not materialize. In fact, few women then and now were elected to office. The amendment also failed to bring the equality of economic opportunity between the sexes that some of its sponsors had hoped. Most women still face discrimination and were paid less than men, and is even sometimes still a controversial issue today. Equal pay. The passage of the 19th Amendment gave women a new sense of equality. New appliances reduced housework, allowing women to go to college and work outside the home. The new equality and economic independence led to changes in manners and morals. Many women had their hair cut short and wore shorter skirts and had the nickname of flappers. Pictured here, some flappers. Also, the 1920s was a period of American history referred to often as Prohibition, which is a period in which alcohol, the manufacture, transportation, of sale of it was illegal. Many Americans believed Prohibition wrongly tried to force one group's moral beliefs on others. Outlawing alcohol ended up only encouraging more people to use it. Many who had never taken a drink now joined in the excitement of breaking the law. Prohibition, others were opposed because the closing of breweries and bars threw thousands of people out of work. Some argued that the return of the liquor industry would create more jobs. Prohibition also led to an increase in lawlessness. Organized crime expanded to control the smuggling and distribution of alcohol, and was quick to supply alcohol to willing consumers. During the 1920s, many Americans, especially women and college students, challenged traditional ideas of what was proper behavior. Uplifted by the prosperity of the 1920s, young men and women threw wild parties, sipped illegal liquors at speakeasies, and often danced nude, sexually expressive dances at the jazz clubs. By 1933, however, most Americans saw the experiment in forced morality as a failure. Many people simply refused to accept the ban on alcohol. Alcoholic drinks were widely available at speakeasies and other underground drinking establishments. 14 years after the ban on alcohol drinks, Prohibition was repealed by the 21st Amendment. Americans came to believe that you can't force one group's morals on another. Scopes monkey trial. Amid the changes brought during the 1920s, Christian fundamentalists saw the Bible as the only salvation for a nation that had grown too materialistic. In 1925, John Scopes, a biology teacher in Tennessee, was brought to trial for teaching the theory of evolution. State law required that theory of creation, as described in the Bible, be taught. The trial turned from prosecuting John Scopes to debating creation versus evolution. Scopes was convicted and forced to pay a small fine. More importantly, the trial spotlighted the conflict between science and traditional religion. Trial. All right. Also, more leisure time gave people greater opportunities for entertainment. People turned to spectator sports, radios, movies, and magazines. This had an impact on popular culture and values. Popular heroes such as pilots Charles Lindbergh and Jack the Boxer, Jack Dempsey, movie star Rudolph Valentino emerged on video, and we're out of time. Email me if you have any questions at ksearcy@spartan.limacity.schools.org.